and something that affects all of us, and that's the reinsurance purchase, and he and Mr. Bordeaux. So with that, we'll start out on page 3. You have your handout, and we'll be fairly quick. Most of our budget request deals with personnel services, and we've requested $395,000 overall LBO. And if you look on page 4, we give you a breakdown of those salaries of $399,000, about $400,000 increase. And why we're asking for it, we have 131 authorized positions, and that's been narrowed down. We have field positions of 113. We average a turnover of about 13.9%. And this year, despite ongoing recruitment efforts, we still have turnovers. And additionally, and the reason for that is attrition. People all have their 25-year plus in, and they're retiring when they can. Additionally, we've lost staff to our competitors who could offer higher salaries than we have, especially in the IT division. And we're requesting additional funding to attract new employees and certain current staff. In this budget request in the LBO, we do not have a pen. We need 2 pens for the IT division that are not on the request, and I will tell you why. I believe Senator, you were at the hearing where we talked about on the commission to look at all the other commissions that we had, that we have been trying for 3.5 years to look at converting over to state-based system, which doesn't mean much, but it's a data collection center where it's more flexible. It's operated by the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. We're one of 11 states that still uses a different system, and those systems require us to bid the contracts either from a year to 2 years, and our contract expires in June, and if we convert to SPS, we don't know what's going to happen. We're going to need that pen. If we don't need it, and you do give it to us, we'll just let it stay vacant. But IT is always a challenge for us with cybersecurity and all the problems we have with data. Any questions on the personnel or the salary side?
So, Commissioner, you're asking for an addition, or you're asking for 2 pens to be added to your request of 131. So we're going to go to 133. Is that correct?
That's correct. We've tried to look at what we could convert, and the personnel board has just said the best thing for us to do is ask for more pens. And I did the same thing with the House yesterday.
And you're not requesting money to go with those pens. You're just saying you need the IT pens.
I just need them.
Okay.
Money, Allison. Senator, may I ask my HR lady who's smarter than I am, Allison, we need the money. I know what she's going to probably say 125,000, 150 with a 150. 150,000 more. We'll tell you where we can get it, we hope.
Yeah, but if you would provide something to me in writing on that, just so that I can add it into here. Pass it on to Chairman.
It's complicated, and we worry about saying too much. We don't need we don't need a lawsuit over procurement laws just squarely, and we've dealt with ITS, and they're working with us, and et cetera. Travel, we're not asking for much increase in travel, just a normal. Most of our travel deals with the State Fire Marshal's division, which, you know, they have vehicles and they run, they buy a lot of gas, and the travel for all of the personnel, we normally have grant funds that come from NEIC. They pay for all of my travel. And if you don't know, we have 5 meetings a year that I'm in a state that I have to attend. So that's not on this budget. And the deputy commissioner has to attend at least 3 out of the 5. And when I don't go, they can pick up his costs. So that's the way we've been able to handle keeping the travel costs down.
So you're just wanting the authority for the additional $12,000 in travel. You have it through special funds or other funds.
Yeah, and to give you an idea, in 2008 or 9, I believe the number was 150,000 or 130. It just hadn't changed a lot since we've been here. Contractual, which is the big number here at 30 million, it's up 266,000 over LBO. And if you turn to page 4, again, you will look at it, it's an incidental. When you put on the contracts, you put um, the increase of state fire rebate monies, which are 23 million, it's going to go up 10 million. And when you get all of those numbers operated out and moved out, and includes the actuarial costs that we have to have actuaries, and we have reduced the cost of actuarial requirements by doing in-house anything that's 5% or less on a rate increase. We do it in-house because we have the expertise to do that. That saved us a bundle of money, about 800,000 a year. And we still use the local actuaries, which saves us a good bit of money, but it's a lot of actuarial costs, which you still have to have on the health side. On vehicles, which is the main thing that, and commodities are self-explanatory on page 4 and 5. On vehicles, if you turn to, I think it's page 7, is that 7? Yes, page 7. At the bottom of page 7, the vehicle request, we've requested the pins and the funding of $399,000 on vehicles, and that's to replace, replacement of 13 vehicles. And you know, the replacement criteria is 7 years of age or 150,000. We've got these vehicles that we're talking about have 7 years of age and more than 200,000 miles on them. We said 8 or 9, I think, or maybe 9 or 10 to the surplus lines. Not surplus lines, but the surplus property or group. And that included the ones that were broken down on the interstate that didn't run. We've had 2 broke down in Copiah County. 220,000 miles, sometimes they're going to break down. And it's something that we hadn't been able to do to cover the vehicles, and we ask for it every year, but back.
Commissioner, how many vehicles do you have total within the agency?
We
Just roundabout.
about, I'd say 23.
Yeah.
23, 24.
23.
24. And what we've been doing since the fire coordinators need a vehicle, they're operating out of pickups. And this is a sidebar, it's kind of a funny thing, but it's in David's name. And he said, that vehicle broke down on the road and it's got my name all over it. But we have to have vehicles that work. Our job is to inspect. We do a lot of all the public building inspections around the state. We have to inspect them. We've got the LP gas division, which does all the propane that goes into the schools or anywhere that you have propane gas. We have to inspect them. That would include the coastal counties as well as northern counties. We got 27 law enforcement people on the payroll. Some of those are vacant, but that's a number of pins that we have. So when you really look at the number of vehicles, not including the fire academy, we've got 7 parked at the fire academy. Is that right, Allison? 7 or 8. And when we didn't have but $100,000 and we could only afford 3 vehicles, just a couple of years ago, we bought 6 of these little Nissan Versas because we had to have 6. And those things didn't last. They were like a matchbox with rubber bands holding them together. But how many of them are parked at the fire academy? I quit counting. Kelly.
At least 2 of them did yesterday, and 2 of them blue verses.
Yeah, we took all of the siding off and all of the stick-on stuff that you have, identifying who they are for education, and just leave them parked, and they go to surplus property. So that's where they are. Going back to page 3, I want to talk about roof tile. Any questions so far? We've got in here the hurricane mitigation funds on page 4, and that has to be put in according to the budget folks. We don't know whether we get 0 or what, but the number that we're looking at is about $15 million. That's what has to be in the appropriation.
And that's we put that in our trust fund, correct?
Everything goes to a trust fund.
It's still in that trust fund. We just didn't.
Well, we still have about 4.7 million in the trust fund that we couldn't spend because the legislature took our authority away to spend those monies. And there's no appetite. There may be on the Senate, but on the House to give us the authority to spend that money before the 1st of June. So it is what it is, and we're not fighting that battle. We just put in here what we think may happen, and got to have authority if the bills pass and they pass. So you're familiar with that, Senator. REF TAF, we have so you'll understand kind of where we are on left half. All of these things include dollars for counties, municipalities, and the rural fire truck program and the matching funds. So we had $2 million in matching funds. We spent $1,980,000 to be exact on that number. Rift Half, we've committed to right at 3 million. I used a different number yesterday, so they try to correct me. It's higher. So we committed to 3. We got a little over 4 million left, and we got to have authority to spend those dollars. And we're committed to the $3 million that they got to be expended down the road. And I will tell you that for the benefit of your analysts, we did tell the House yesterday that we have only 4 counties that fall into something less, around 8 or less, and that prohibits us from spending some of these dollars that need to be out. And that just simply says that if you're not a county like Essequina or Sharkey that's very poor, then you can't apply for the money, get the monies that we need. So, and we'll work through that. Y'all tell us what you want to do, we'll work through it.
Just getting caught up on speed here. Thank you. All right, go ahead, Commissioner.
So basically, that's our budget request. We put all the backup documents on, it starts on page 4 and goes through page 8. It shows you the salaries and all the fringes and everything. We've given it to you. What I'm saying is, unless you want us to, we're not going to get into all of that. It's all there, what we're doing. I will tell you that, there is a move, there's some bills that may make its way through to require the department to do an exchange, which if it's a federally based marketplace, we would have to have approval of the governor, which he has not seen fit to do so far. There's a bill coming out of the House, and I kind of feel it's going to pass, that would mandate to us that we take the high risk pool, which we call M-Triple, and form a way that we could sell a low cost product. And we can do that. It's not a heavy lift. I just got to have the right people on the board, and we're already addressing that. But basically we would offer a product that's very similar to what we have. See if you can cut that damn thing off. So we would have a plan that would be very similar to what operates, and they operate as a plan. It's not an insurance product where they offer a product to their members that's about $500 a month and it's underwritten. We would do the same thing. It would have 10 essential health benefits that are required by the FCA, but it would have $1 million cap probably on it. It would not be FCA or Federal Marketplace compliant because it has a cap on lifetime benefits per year. And we're already in the process of getting prepared if that's required of us. And we got a waiver from CMS a week ago Monday to pay the premiums for people below 200% of the poverty level. But when we look at the dollars that are in the risk pool, and these are all balance sheets that y'all never see, that's the reason I'm bringing it up. It's about $20 million. It's complicated, but that money wouldn't last 3 months. It would take $120 million to take care of those folks. So our concern is, and the budget people need to hear this, is that if we don't develop a product and a lot of people come for the ACA, those people that need health care will go to the hospital emergency rooms for uncompensated care. If they go for uncompensated care, it's a spiral downward, and the hospitals cannot afford to have 20% of their patient load or the payor mix being uncompensated care. So this is an attempt to provide someone with a policy that costs between $450 a month, provides all the benefits you normally get under a normal policy, but it's real strict on the formulary for drugs. In other words, you cannot get a GLP-1 drug that costs you $300 to $900 a month, unless we got a special price from Novo. And it would be offered by probably one of the major companies or 2 of them. We'd offer more than one. It would be a plan, not an insurance policy. I want to make that real clear because we don't regulate plans. They're kind of self-insured. So any questions along that line? We see it coming. It's just a major problem.
Yeah, Commissioner, as you know, I mean, we'll have to make adjustments at the end of
Yeah.
the session if some of those bills make it all the way through, and we'll work with you on that part of it. Do you have anything else in your presentation right now?
Well, that's basically what, if you want an update on ACA numbers, they look fairly decent. We had 350,000 people on it in round numbers last year. We've had a little over 300,000 sign up, but only right at 100,000 have actually paid the premium. So we don't know about if we're going to dump 200,000 people to the uninsured market, or whether or not they're going to drop down and buy the bronze plan. We just don't know. And we won't have that data until probably at the end of this week from CMS. And we do not regulate Medicare or Medicare Advantage plans. And so there's no dollars in here. We're doing all the complaints, do our normal complaint division actually. And we're submitting all of those complaints to our congressional delegations. They're really the ones that's supposed to handle it, but we'll do it as a courtesy to the consumers. And I will say that we're pretty dadgum successful I had one today from a guy in Corinth, former legislator, his father-in-law, and $200,000 operation. Aetna's counsel everybody in North Mississippi, but it's an HMO, so they will cover it if we have the procedure done at the University Medical Center. That's something that we normally do not get involved in, but we're there. So that's just a matter of information for you. Any questions? And we did give you a little poop sheet about what we do. It's kind of a recap of what we did last year. And I will take my picture off and put yours on here if you want me to.
No. Old sidelight. I do have a couple of questions, but I'm gonna yield to my chairman because I don't know if you're having to run back out. You good? Juan,
I wouldn't want your job. I've been there before.
So this is not necessarily related to the budget right now, but this is high level. Forward you the email that I received from a constituent, but it was regarding liquefied propane gas. It had something to do about whether there's anyone checking the regulators and the meters between the jobbers, if you will, the people in the trucks that are coming out and delivering to residential units or to even industrial users. Is there anyone that checks the calibration of the gauges that are used for the delivery?
Those are supposed to be checked by the Department of Agriculture and Commerce.
That's under the same thing, but that's not under your board, correct?
That's not under us.
Okay.
But we do, as a matter of information, we do check them. There's some gray areas that we've run into down in the southern part of the state where they mix propane with they take propane and try to make natural gas out of it. And Public Service Commissioner does not regulate that portion, and we don't really regulate it, but they kicked it to us. And the problem is the fuel doesn't burn well. It's the conversion process. So if you know, methane is CH4, propane is a C6 hydrocarbon, and you just break down the hydrocarbons, and you end up with a product that doesn't burn well, plain. So you end up with, instead of a CH4, you may end up with a CH4 plus O1, O2. And therein is a problem for you. So we're working, actually, former Speaker of the House is the one that brought this to us, and we're working with him.
Okay. Any more questions from the committee?
Only that you mentioned to us once before, this, I don't has much to do with the audit, but it does, that some of the leaching out of the roofing material from some of the suppliers. David and I had lunch with Chris Montforth yesterday and got his take on it. We've looked at it, and that is basically one company where you have a hydrocarbon leaking out of a asphalt product that shouldn't be mixed with it. It's probably kerosene to make it
Probably so.
And what happens is if you got PTX in it, then you get into carcinogens, and that's way above my pay grade, but we had to do some work on it.
Yeah, just so you know, that's Senator Thompson. That's been working on those issues, and it's there's nothing that the Commissioner of Insurance would have anything to do with, but I just thought it was very interesting.
Well, it is. And, my background's oil and gas, and it's not insurance. And when I started looking at it, I said, somebody got a problem.
It's pretty interesting. Anything else?
Yeah, thank you for
Budget wise?
any other questions?
Let Kim laugh directly.
You had to know all of that when I was losing all that money at the refinery. So thank y'all for, Mr. Chairman, appreciate you letting us talk here.
That's all that Vicksburg stuff over there, all you oil and gas people over in the.
Well, this is a sideline, but Kelly Elliott is fixing to talk to you. We have to buy naphtha, which is, it's a crude run of gasoline, comes off the top of a barrel to burn for the fire academy and makes this huge black smoke. It looks horrible. And it's bad too. So, we've been fighting those battles on the other side. Appreciate y'all's time. Any questions, feel free to call David and Allison. They'll help you.
Commissioner, you're going to be here for the fire marshal of the fire academy.
And, yeah. I didn't know if Noah left. Did Noah leave?
Saying you got.
Yeah.
On one. Schedule, and that's a good thing in these committee meetings. We'll go ahead and start the State Fire Academy hearing. We have technically until 2:45, but if you would, let's try to save as much time as we can and give us some opportunity to ask questions from the membership. But I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, sir, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir. Hey, so thank you for having us here today. I'm Kelly Elliott, the Executive Director of the State Fire Academy. With me, I have Barry Burnside, who's the Deputy Director of Instructional Services. Beside him is Christy Johnson. She's our Chief of Strategic Operations and Advancement. And right here I have Paul Ammerman. He's our Deputy Director of Support Services. And they're right around the room there, we have Matt Hinkle. He is our Chief of our Firemanship Group, which actually is a lot of our introductory training for the fire service in Mississippi and advancement for that discipline that we have. So With that said, I'd like to go ahead and get started. I'd like to thank you guys for what you do and thank you for the opportunity to be here and the responsibility you carry out on the Mississippians. And just to kind of let you know, we have one focal point this year. We always come in with a pretty lean ask because we make do with what we have, and we stretch it a long ways with a fairly small staff out the State Fire Academy. For those of you that might not know, we're a 100-acre campus, roughly 100 acres out there just off of Old Whitfield Road in Pearl. Been there for around 50 years. We celebrated that anniversary a couple of years ago. And that's kind of part of our ask today is the infrastructure is getting a little bit aged and it kind of shuts us down sometime. But the biggest priority I have today is based on our instructor workforce and stabilizing that. And what we have is to keep the mission going. We have got it in a situation over the years to where the outside departments from the north part of the state to the south part of the state and the metro area have become more competitive. And in doing so, they have raised their salaries to a point to where we cannot get the recruitment and the retention that we need to keep the mission going. For us, by statute, we have to provide all the fire protection training for the state of Mississippi. And in doing so, we take care of your counties, your volunteers, we take care of the career at the municipal level, and we also take care of industry for the state of Mississippi. We have a lot of folks knocking on our door from outside the state. We have a lot of folks knocking on our door from internationally also, but we always prioritize Mississippians. There's never going to be a time that we take a seat and slide it over and let someone else come in from outside the state line if we need it inside the state. In that being said, we have a high demand. The level of training in Mississippi and the level of professionalism in the fire service has, I believe, over a period of time has greatly increased. And of course, you guys, keep up with everything that's going on with the first responders, and it's a big push out there. So what we have here is I got a couple of items I want to direct you to. One of them is we put together a pretty significant study for our retention and our recruitment of our fire instructors. And we did a comparison of the metro area. And predominantly over the years for the State Fire Academy, that's where the bulk of our instructors have come from. You do have some folks that come from the north part of the state. You do have to come from the south. I was an instructor here 20-something years ago before I became the director, and I came from Tupelo, Mississippi is where I came from. So, but historically, the bulk of them comes from the metro area. And so in this compensation and workforce stabilization proposal, this is an executive summary of the larger study that we submitted to SPB, the State Personnel Board, for them to kind of look at what we had and give us their support. And what I would like to do before I talk about that is just kind of read you a brief quote from Ryan Beard with the State Personnel Board about our study. In saying this, he says, as we discussed in our meeting, the Fire Academy has found itself in a situation in need of alterations to its compensation structure. I appreciate your willingness as a part of Project SEC Square to make our new classifications work for your agency. However, it has become apparent that what may have worked even a few short years ago is no longer a viable long-term solution. Based on the survey data you provided from the metro area fire departments, your proposed salary ranges are completely reasonable and needed for you to remain competitive in a labor market that has become ultra competitive recently for first responders. I think it is reasonable based on the skill set and the required limited applicant pool to potentially create a first responder training family within the public safety occupational group. So if you take this proposal sheet and turn to page 2, I'd like to direct you to a couple of items on there, some charts. So we're right here with the red and blue charts. And if you look at the first one, the MSFA, Mississippi State Fire Academy training hour comparison for instructors to fire chiefs and training officers around the metro area is significant for what the experience and education our instructors have. So as a fire chief or a city or municipality around us, you want our instructors, and they're getting our instructors. And because, when you start looking at quality of life, our culture is great at the Fire Academy, but when you start looking at quality of life and some of the significant increases they're offering our instructors, they can't turn it down. So we're at a point now where we have a pretty large percentage of our people that's retirement eligible that could go any day. I think that's probably close 16, somewhere under 20% that's eligible right now. And so we've had a lot of a middle tier that has taken off and going to be training officers at some of these departments. And rightfully so. They're great guys. The departments want them. They need them. And they got to take care of those fire departments. Where we're at on the lower end is our recruitment is struggling because we also, at this point in the state, Christy, do you have that one handout? for the announcement that just came out? I think Senator McClendon would kind of notice this one. We just pulled this announcement offline here in the last week or so. We have a city in the north part of the state that's starting their 18-year-old firefighters out more than what I can pay an instructor. Okay, so my starting salary for an instructor, these folks are going to be sitting in the classroom getting the basic training for the fire service and be making a salary greater than what an instructor has, that we're looking for someone that's in that 7, 12, 13-year range with lots of hours of training already. So if you look at the comparison, these are averages. That's the average of what our instructors have. That's the averages of what the fire chiefs and I think I'm back on right there. If you go down to chart 2 and you look at the metro area training officer salaries compared to the MSFA instructor entry level salary, you can see the comparisons right there. That, I mean, it kind of just speaks for itself. Chart 3, it talks about our instructor departures for higher paying positions. And these are recent, the ones that's happened again, just right around us. And again, you can see the red is what they were making when they left us. The blue is what they went to go and make at the department that pulled them in. I don't blame those departments. We have a lot of great people. So if you take a look at chart 4 on page 3, and this one right here really tells the tale. It's the declining instructor applicant pool that we've had pretty significantly for the last 10 to 12 years. You know, and I'll say this, Christy, you just went to an accreditation meeting where she was able to talk with some of the leadership from Alabama Fire College, and they were upset or disappointed about the applicant pool of how many? 28 people. All right. So back in 2014, we had 12 applicants, and that was a decent amount. I mean, you can find a quality person who's capable of doing the type of training and go, because what we do with our folks is we don't just take what they already have. We send them outside to go get the more advanced level, a bit of training to bring back and be able to deliver that to the level that our state requires and wants. So if you look at 2014 all the way to 2025, you'll notice two things. You'll notice, one, that we started increasing the amount of times that we put on an announcement to try to draw people in. But the biggest one that you'll notice is the applicant pool for qualified applicants is significantly lower and very small. So if you look at 2025 right there, that last one that we did in the year, and we actually put another one out, but it didn't close until 2026 in January this year. So we didn't put that one on here. That 2025 last pool that we put out there drew one qualified applicant. I got 5 openings right now. So we're down almost 20% on our instructors. So what that does to us is this where we have to start, shutting down deliveries. We have to start looking at, when we have the drain of those experienced advanced instructors being pulled to those other departments, we have to start shutting down some of the more advanced courses. So what we do is we'll start pulling people in to just focus on what the statutory requirements are for the basic firefighter. But we have a tremendous demand on our programs. And we had probably roughly, Barry, 380 deliveries last year of programs. And we do it on campus. We have facilities out there with a dorm. We have a kitchen. We have, the burn buildings, housekeeping, maintenance. We're self-contained inside of that facility there. So we're at a tipping point. We've kind of sounded the alarm the last couple of years because we could see this coming, and we knew the other departments were going to keep moving forward and even make it harder on us. But now we're kind of at a tipping point to where we would seriously have to start looking at potentially shutting down some programs. At the same time, this past week, I had a meeting with probably 12, 15 fire chiefs at the academy. So we had 12, 15 fire chiefs out there at the academy. We had some good discussion about the future and what we're doing to move forward. But I can easily say they want more. They don't want less. They want more. So in doing so, we haven't really talked too much with them about because we haven't had to cut yet. We have actually looked at some of our more advanced classes and started looking at what we're going to have to pull back on this year if we don't get the applicants to start coming in, so we can fill those voids. The problem with being at the tipping point or being at the cliff is the voids that we have to fill. Some of these programs take 2 or 3 years to get them up to speed to be able to teach, because these are high-risk programs we teach. We're the place where people are hanging off the building on the road, rappelling, going down into the tunnels, dressing up in the bubble looking suits, the level A hazmat suits, dealing with train derailments. Those aren't things you just hand a new person a lesson plan and say, hey, go teach this. We need the experience, we need the education, and we're at the point where that has left us and went to those other departments, and we got those other instructors that can retire any day. So that's the kind of the key part of this summary here that I have. What I will say is, in talking with Ryan at the State Personnel Board, he was very, I don't want to say this, but he was very impressed with what we gave him. We put a lot of work and effort into it. Barry was a big part of that. I got a lot of smart people around me. I got a lot of great, it's really one of the best teams that I've ever been around. And I've been active duty military. I've been the fire chief of the city of Tupelo. I've been the fire chief of the military International Guard base. I've run operations at the airport. I've done a lot of things. I've never had a solid team like this. And we're a 60-person agency, 62. We got about 30 instructors, and we go all over the state all the time to deliver training. We do it on campus. We do it virtual. We do it hybrid. We do everything we can to deliver the program to what's requested and what's needed out there. So, in saying that, I'm kind of catch up with myself here. I get to talking too much. We're just really at a reality point now to where it's going to start having an impact to where we're looking at having to do cuts, and we can provide the study. I think you guys at Elbow may already have the full study. It's like 22, 23 pages. We didn't want to give you all that because we knew, wouldn't be feasible to sit here and read through that. This one part is the executive summary of it, but we can provide you anything you want. The other handout that we have, if any of you want it, we brought it with us. We've got a course catalog that's pretty impressive. Yeah, it shows you from technical rescue to hazardous materials to chemistry to EMS. We can deliver advanced EMS programs at the Academy. We do deliver advanced EMS programs all the way from the firefighter first responders all the way up to leadership and development. We have an executive fire officer program that's comparable to what they deliver at the National Fire Academy in Emmitsburg, Maryland. So not only are we bringing in the recruits, we're developing them all the way up to that fire chief level. But when the experience leaves, those programs will falter and fail. I don't want to sit there and kind of beat on that horse too long because I know we got other items on here, but I would like to just kind of touch on those other items as far as telling the story, and then we can kind of talk a little bit about the numbers. But Barry, is there anything you'd like to throw in on the instructor piece?
Bring it in, people. We joke about it.
If you're going to speak, please speak into that microphone just so we can have it on document.
We good to go? I'm sorry. I was a fire chief in Clinton for 12 years. I served there for 22 years. And when I was hired as a fire instructor at the fire academy, I realized I don't know very much. And so even with my experience, it took me 3 to 4 years to feel good about what we were teaching. Just like the director is speaking to, the higher end, the director, the executive director or the executive level that you're looking for to teach is very hard to find. When we bring somebody in from, say, we hired a guy from Greenville. When you get him down here and you hire him and he moves and he gets settled at that salary rate, what I always joke about is I see these chiefs come in and they're talking to our guys, our instructors, and I say, wait a minute, is he over there hiring that guy? And I really do. That's in the back of my mind, I'm always wondering about that. And sometimes that happens. They'll say, hey, look, come over and see me, and I might have a position for you. So they're on our land hunting, as I joke about a little bit. They're poaching a little bit, but just to sum it up, basically, when you hire them, it takes years to get them up to that level where it's just the expertise is what we're looking for, subject matter experts, and they're just not in every corner. And we have to find them. And when we get them there, people want them.
Thank you, Barry. I think if I was going to follow that up with just really quick, it would be, we've got that group there that can go out the door any minute. We've got the group that's kind of that middle tier that has been leaving to go run, take care of training and run fire departments, and we're not getting a recruitment. So that mentorship, that being able to bring them in and teach them over the years as they come in, even about just the basics at the academy, is kind of where that chain's getting broke at right now.
All right, I appreciate it. Chairman Hobson, you had a question real quick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kelly, so your biggest concern is pay of your employees,
Yes,
correct? And I know you've talked with Ryan, obviously, about it seems like based on the numbers and the information you provided that pay ought to be going up, at least the minimum level of pay ought to be going up for your instructors.
Yes, sir.
And, but are you telling us you need to get above that minimum level to be able to keep?
Well, I think what we put together was a conservative market study.
Okay.
And the numbers that Ryan was in agreement with is in the email, and I think it may be even in our chart here, that we feel like is what will attract, at least get our applicant pool back up, and maybe even attract some of the people that left to come back.
Get you back to a market level area? Is that kind of what you're?
Yes, sir. We're not, I don't believe we're at a point where we're trying to go above and beyond. We're trying to at least get on a level playing field. So those folks that want to come work with us, and there are a lot of folks that do,
Yeah.
it's just a money piece right now because we have a great culture.
Well, I mean, when I look at for instance, metro area training officers, and they're all making a good bit more. It seems like that ought to be pulling your level up, but we can get with, I want to get with Ryan and Kelly at some point, just to take a look at where they are, Mr. Chairman, to see, one, to make sure their salaries are keeping up with what is determined to be a minimum level of salary within the SPB guidelines.
Yes, sir.
SEC Square program we got set up. And then two is to see if we need to get above that, because I understand it is a competitive market, and that y'all need to be able to keep some of your best and brightest here. I hate to stop in the middle, but I've got more hearings going on
Yes, sir.
in another room, so I'm gonna be darting back and forth, Mr. Chairman, but I just wanted to ask that question before, not for right now, but
All right.
I'll get with you later on it.
Senator McClendon, let me recognize the commissioner real quick. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to catch you before Senator Hobson got out of the room. Barry Bernstein has a PhD. He's a doctor. He can go to work today at twice what he's making. This guy is incredibly qualified, although he went to Ole Miss and was a place kicker. He could go to work at twice what he's making. Same way with Paul and Kelly, and that's a problem. We are actually an academic facility. We're treated like I don't know what you would call it, a high school, I guess, but the level of the expertise at this academy is the top in the United States. That's from ExxonMobil.
Yep. Commissioner. There you go. Jumping the gun a little bit there. Senator McClendon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you explain a little bit, say, when these different groups that do come in that aren't Mississippi firefighting groups, exactly, let's just say Chlorine Institute.
Yes.
That's been coming in for how many years? I was able to witness that because my daughter-in-law, who works for Harcross Chemical, she's Alderman in Hernando, and I looked out at that class. I mean, these are rigged looking dudes. I mean, these are bona fide blue collar workers. And I went around and talked to some of them, and they were talking about it's the best training that we've ever had. I haven't missed this in 15 years, however many years it's been. 2 from South America, I believe, 1 from Taiwan or somewhere in the East, far West, they call it Far East. But can you explain to me when a group like that does come, and I'm not sure which chemical company was in Houston that was the president of this chemical company, where does that money go in the state? But do you get to keep it, or does it go to a general? And I was hoping Senator Hobson would be here when I was making this bill, but he's not. But
Yes, sir. So we're a general fund agency, so we roll back there. We do have a lot of agencies like the Chlorine Institute. They've been coming for a long time. We have, we have a train derailment site. One of the benefits we get out of them is there's a lot of things they want to do for our props for us. And so sometimes there's a trade-off there where, hey, we can host this, and they'll want to upgrade our facilities. Like our train derailment site, our rail cars were aged to the point to where a lot of them wasn't even on the tracks anymore. And in the past couple of years, we've had those replaced. There's been upgrades there, but I think CN Railroad, they came in and did that. The Chlorine Institute, it's just a huge, tremendous outpouring of people. Exxon, of course, we had more industry back in the day when we were special fund. Right now, what we do is we prioritize Mississippians. So we turn a lot of folks away, and that includes industry at this point. What allows us to be comfortable with bringing them in is finding a dead spot on the calendar, like a weekend or something, and letting them come in, and they're helping us do some upgrades at the same time. But the doors, they would be beating down our doors every day if we had the capacity to take care of them.
Do you know of any other agency in the state that trains outside entities like y'all do?
I'm not aware of anyone right off the top of my head.
And y'all are still rated #1 in the country. And
Hold on, let me make sure I understand this correctly. But every single IHL in the state does that. Right? Community colleges do it.
they do. But I'm talking about institutes, say, as a group that comes in, the Chlorine Institute.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about bleach.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about chlorine derailments that almost killed a town in Ohio, correct?
Correct.
And we teach that here.
We do.
And they could go anywhere, and Exxon could go anywhere in the world.
Most corporate industry specialists like that, once they come to our campus, they want our campus.
That's what I'm getting at is, so whatever monies they pay, you to put that in the bank and send it to DFA. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it goes into Fire Academy budget,
General fund.
even though you're doing the work.
And Senator McClendon, understand that I wasn't questioning your question as much as I'm trying to understand more about this. This is the first year that I've had your budget, and I've got a lot to learn on this. There are, even though you and I have not spoken, I've had a lot of work with ambulance services over the years where we've been trying to get some changes for paramedic
Yes, sir.
training at community college levels. And there were some suggestions that we could do that training here in-house. So I'm trying to learn more about it. And so understand a little bit of it. What I would like to see from you, if you would just help me out, help me with understanding the budget and the special funds that you collect from other jurisdictions, is can you give me a list of maybe the last 2 years, so I have a larger sample size of the agencies that have sent students or cadets up to the Fire Academy for in-house training where they stay in-house versus and they receive your certifications in-house versus those that do their training. You may not have this particular number, but I'm trying to get to the number of agencies that use a regional training for throughout the state and then do testing for your, is it IFSAC?
Certifications, yes, sir.
For your certifications. And I'm curious because I understand how many people are able to actually functionally use the Fire Academy versus having to try to do something in-house just because they can't afford sending people to the academy. And then the follow-up question with that is, how much is the cost of testing for the certifications when the municipalities or the agencies do not use the Fire Academy for the in-house component? Does that make sense? Because there are some times where especially, I'm from the coast.
Yes, sir.
there's times where I've had fire chiefs that have said, you know, I can go to Covington or I can go to Mobile County and get the same exact training and the testing and the same certifications for a fraction of the cost. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that and try to understand what that dynamic looks like. Say that I will help you in your progression and your reclassifications. That's something that we'll work with, but I do want to understand that side of the business side of it a little bit better to help me understand that. To if you do have the opportunity to bring in outside vendor or outside private company users that for that, and we could save, or we could segregate that money to offset cost to locals, very much be in favor of trying to find a way to provide as many openings and seats as humanly possible for us to train industry people and then have those monies offset the cost for our local departments.
Yes, sir.
So, through that with you. I look forward to working with you in the future. Any other questions? McClendon, you have anything?
Now, so the Chlorine Institute, that training, I'm reading the course is funded through Federal Department of Transportation Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness Grant. So the state's really not paying for,
Okay, let me speak to that. This one is our requirement for fire, I'm sorry.
If you would, please, just saw that, Mike. There you go.
Yeah, what we're looking at here is the hazardous materials awareness and operation. That is a prerequisite for a firefighter. So that one is paid for through a grant. Paul, is that grant, do you remember the?
Yes, it's a pass-through grant that that MEMA gets from the Department of Transportation. It's expressly for hazardous materials mitigation and education.
That's right.
Right,
Yes, sir.
that's correct. It also goes to LECs, but we do get the bulk of that funding. So yes, that is for us to train hazardous material awareness and ops, tech, fire chemistry, any of those hazardous material related courses.
is that something that the legislature has to pass out, or does that go directly to you?
It's a federal grant that MEMA receives, and then we satisfied their training portion of that federal grant program, and as a result, they pass through that funding directly to us. So it doesn't go through the state per se. It goes from the federal government to MEMA, and then MEMA does.
And if I may, I'm not quite sure. I don't remember. I don't think the Chlorine Institute week is in this catalog because it's reserved for the Chlorine Institute. But I want to say it's Paul, do you remember the total amount chlorine pays? Is it-
They're just a little bit over 20,000 now. We kind of cut them a deal just because
Yeah.
it's, it's money that we pass directly through to the state. So
Much of the work that we've had done at the fire academy, which is create a new hazardous materials site, a train derailment. If you guys drive out there and come see us, and we'll show you around, and we'll even light it up and show you. It looks like something gone bad in Galveston, Texas, in an oil field, but a rail yard. But they've been able to come in with some private companies, and I've asked them to estimate how much money is this that would cost us to create this prop that we have, and it's in the several $100,000 range of them donating that to us. In exchange, we learn a lot about chlorine and able to speak to that when we're dealing with training our own firefighters. So these folks that come in from the Chlorine Institute or from Canada, like you say, all over the world, and so that's like a concentration of all the smart people in one room or one area on the campus and sharing about chlorine and some other volatile materials that we have to deal with. So, yes, sir.
Because you had the CEO of which chemical company from Houston was it? I mean, it was a big one.
Yeah, I don't know if I was around when he came through. I know we have the head guy, the president of the ChlorRep that
Chlorine Institute.
Chlorine Institute.
And we've had,
He worked for. I can't think of it.
Yeah.
It's a big one that came, it's off.
Yeah.
So, but those guys And they had 100, I believe, right at 100 people that were there, and they were there for 3 days,
Yeah.
4 or 5 days. They don't get it less than what our municipalities get it for.
Now,
I guess is going to be
Yeah.
the main question that if Senator Hobson was,
yeah, one of the, I guess a couple of things we look at when we allow the usage of the campus, one, it's exposing our specialized instructors to that field and giving them more in-depth knowledge. But at the same time, when we're getting those facility type upgrades in kind through them, we also tell them, hey, there's got to be so many Mississippi seats you give us that's going to allow other people from the state to come in and train while you guys are here delivering it to the industry.
are there other institutes out there that could come?
There are. I mean, we're, between our train development site, between the coiling piece, between the pipeline that we're doing with ExxonMobil, everyone that comes wants the facility. It's just a matter of capacity and, just making sure we don't push Mississippians out from the training that we got to have.
Director, I think, are some of the things you're looking for. So we've trained DuPont, Chemours, Grand Gulf Nuclear. We've trained people from the Dominican Republic. I mean, there's tons of private industries that flowed through our campus over the years.
Yeah, but let me interject a question. When you have like the chemical or the chlorine institute come in, are they bringing their own instructors? Or are they using your instructors?
They're typically bringing their own, and ours will assist and be more of a liaison.
Specifically, the Chlorine
That's just
Institute
chlorine.
brings their own in, but when you're talking about DuPont, Exxon, all those other industries, they come in and use our instructors. We teach.
But do they come to you because you have the certification that they need, even though they're providing the training? You are the entity in the state of Mississippi that can do the IFSAC training, correct? Or the IFSAC certifications. So they can come here, they'll bring their instructors, you certify or administer the exams for those certifications.
I think not to confuse those, most of our IFSAC Pro Board accreditation, our certifications are typically geared towards more of the municipal and departments for the most part.
And not an insurance requirement for private sector companies.
No,
They have their own.
it's essentially a third-party entity that comes in and says, hey, you're teaching to the standard, you're testing to the standard on your written test and your skills. So it's just basically a stamp of approval that if you took that certificate and went somewhere else with it, like, okay, you're good. It's what DOD uses. It's what most every state, around us or in the US uses. And it's just kind of that third-party accreditation.
Okay, well, this is a big learning thing for me, which frankly, we really shouldn't be doing this during the budget time or during the budget stuff. I would to get back with you and learn a little bit more about that. I don't mean to cut off the conversation, Senator McClendon, but I do want to go back to, appreciate it. No, I'm a sponge. I do want to go back to the budget. OBR has a reduction for general funds of 163,000, and looking to see exactly what that amount is related to. But I do see that there's capital expense funds.
Yes, sir.
That were awarded, and have those been spent?
So we had a project for our fire research heat building where the majority of the firefighting activities take place that actually, I believe, starts in March, the demo, and should be finished up by May. And so that was a pretty large one for us. That was probably about 1.75 as far as million when we first received it. We are looking to be more around the $1.45 million range as far as completion. And specifically on that one, we're hoping to be able to turn that money in and actually get this water system funded for the academy in this year's budget. Is what we're looking for.
Okay. All right, thank you. There was a typo on this page, so I'm trying to figure out where the delta came from, but now we've got it. As far as pins go, there's no, you have a request of 70 pins LBR was at 62. I know you said you had some vacancies that were there, and will you speak specifically to that right now?
We've modified our request down. We're no longer requesting 70. We're now requesting to stay at 62.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And I believe I know that I'm gonna have other questions later
Yes, sir.
that we'll work on, but is there anything else that you would like to say right now?
If we were going to hit on the capital just quickly, there's some items on there. You know, we just talked about the water system. Last year, we were awarded approximately $100,000. It's really more of a $450,000 project. We're going to probably turn in roughly $350,000 from the heat building project that, we would love to turn around and ask for to help us to fund the full water project for the academy. Now, it's when you think about the fire academy, it's about a 50-year-old facility, and the infrastructure out there goes down pretty regular when you start looking at the water system and how long it's been in the ground. So it shuts, if you can imagine, firefighting, it shuts down the whole operation when it goes down on a sun move. So we have our own pumping system, our own lakes, and so to get that taken care of and worked on, we're either going to pay a lot of money to try to get a contractor in to do it, or we're going to try to get our maintenance team to do it, which leads as far as repairs. But we're really looking to replace that system, and the quotes that we had come in, I think, put it at about 450, and we were partially funded 100,000 for it last year. The other piece of that is, if you look at I believe it's the capital outlay equipment. We have an excavator on there also for about $100,000, and that would be utilized to do those type projects out there as far as repairs. But also, we teach trench rescue, so you can imagine any construction site that you go to. That's a pretty high hazard OSHA regulated area. That when we teach our students from around the whole state, we put them in as close to a live environment as we can. So it will be utilized for that. The other piece of equipment on there is iPads. So just like any school system right now, we have iPads that are utilized for testing, and ours cannot be upgraded anymore. And that puts us in a situation that actually, kind of threatens us for our accreditation, because we can't put a lockout system on it that keeps students from kind of surfing and going and looking up an answer somewhere. So we have to closely monitor them right now. But at the end of the day, they're monitored anyway, but the iPads cannot be updated anymore. And so that's about $53,000 to replace all those. And they're utilized in the field. They're utilized on campus. We have iPad carts in the classrooms. It's just that they're at that age, they got to be replaced. Not the last one, but we do have 4 fleet vehicle replacements we're asking for. We have more vehicles than that, but that's probably are ones that are aged the most, and they're upwards of 200,000 miles or so on them. I think the age of them, Paul, is probably close to
Average is 19 years.
average age is 19 years. We do a lot of statewide training and testing. And, we even go out of state sometimes to do things. I think it was surface water rescue or swift water rescue. So, when we actually had a truck break down on us, and we had to leave it in Alabama this year while our guys went and finished the training and leave it at a shop to pick it up on their way back. So, it's we have those vehicles that are at that point. So when you talk about people doing in-house training, we go to them and test them. And so we those vehicles are utilized for that. Last real item on there, other than the water system and those items, would be the drill tower in our capital outlay right there with the water system. And our drill tower, it's that masonry structure on the other side of the building, the tall one, obviously has a helicopter sitting on top of it right now. And it has an external stairwell that we've had an engineer come out and look at, and it needs some work done to it to stabilize it and make sure that it's remains safe. So the remaining money there, I think, which is about $52,000 to get that thing stabilized. So I guess what I'm saying is these are pretty much must-have type items. If I was going to say there was anything on here need to have, which would maybe more so be the excavator, but everything else is pretty significant. And when it comes to life safety.
Okay, then let's do this. Let's reconvene, you and us, in about 2 weeks of time. And I would anticipate that first action is going to be LBR. I want to make sure that I understand your request and understand this, but let's just let's just reconvene in a couple of weeks
Yes, sir.
and just give me that information that I was asking you about, or anything else that you think would be good information for me. Any other questions, Mr. Vice Chair? Anything? I want to go ahead and close this committee meeting now, or subcommittee meeting now. And I think our next one that we're going to have in this room will be oil and gas at 2:45. Hopefully they'll be here a little bit earlier, but thank you for coming out today.
Thanks for your
Appreciate you.
time.
All right. Apologize to members of the committee. We have oil and gas at 2:45. We have until 3 o'clock. It usually is a very quick budget, but it's good to see you again. Thank you very much for coming before us today. I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's good to see everybody. My name is Jess New. I'm the Executive Director of the Mississippi Oil and Gas Board. I won't take up too much of your time today. Our budget request is more or less in line with the LBO recommendation. We are asking for, on the operational side, $3.6 million. That covers all of our operational expenses for the year. In addition to that, we are requesting authority to spend another $2 million, which we received from a matching grant through the U.S. Department of the Interior. That grant is used to plug orphaned and abandoned wells and remediate orphaned well sites throughout the state of Mississippi. So our total budget request for fiscal year 27 is $5.6 million. We do not need any additional employment pins. We are fully staffed this year. And I would like to request the authority to buy one vehicle. We've got an aging truck that we need to move out of the line and replace for our field inspectors. We've got 8 field inspectors who are scattered throughout the state, and it's their job to ensure mechanical compliance and regulatory compliance. And so we've got one truck that we need to replace. The last 2 years, the legislature has given us $2.3 million each year that goes to our emergency plugging fund. Again, that money is used to plug orphaned wells throughout the state of Mississippi. Last year, we completed 30 plugging and remediation jobs. As you can see on your handout, each of those jobs cost now about $105,000. I've been at the Oil and Gas Board since 2018. We used to be able to plug a well for about $60,000. So it's getting more and more expensive every single year. A lot of that is because we don't have as many contractors in the state doing work. Materials are going up, rates are going up. But all of those jobs are awarded through the procurement process, through an invitation for bid. In some scenarios, if we've got a serious well that needs immediate attention, we had such a scenario in Rankin County last year. We had to do that through an emergency procurement. That project alone was $1.5 million, but that's an outlier. That well had every problem in the world that you can ever imagine. Currently, in our emergency plugging fund, we have roughly about $1.2 million. That's really about as low as I like that fund to get comfortably, just because, like I said, if we have an emergency that pops up, we need to be able to move on that quickly. Our maintenance fees, so we generate maintenance fees that cover our revenue every single year. Those maintenance fees are generated by an assessment on the production and sales of oil and gas. Since 2018, oil production is down 49% in the state of Mississippi. Gas production is down 57% since 2018. So what that means for us is when production and sales is down, our revenue collections are down as well. And so the difference in our request this year from previous years is we need a general fund appropriation. We are only generating right now, on average since 2018, roughly about $1.3 million in maintenance fee collections. And, as I mentioned, that $3.6 million, that's pretty much dollar for dollar with our budget. There's not a lot of fluff in that at all. That's for our staff, wages, contractual services, travel, commodities, and a vehicle. That's really all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions or further clarify. I know I kind of sped through that, but
Yeah, so you may have said this, but did we get that well, that nasty well, straightened out?
we did. So we ended up having to hire a contractor from Utah. That contractor did use Mississippi subs, but we could not find anybody here that had the bandwidth or that was just comfortable doing that job. It was, without getting into the technological side of it, it had H2S gas on it, which is can be deadly. It is deadly. It's a very serious matter.
I watched Landman, I understand.
Absolutely. Yeah, you saw that. That's exactly what happens. It's exactly what happens. So we were lucky to find a really good contractor that took it on. And they did. Part of us giving them that contract was that they committed to using Mississippi subs, and they did. But not every well we have is going to be like that, fortunately.
So were you able to, what was the delta in the amount created that we did last year for that versus what you actually had to pay out to that contractor for it? Did it come in higher or lower than what you had anticipated?
So the 2.3, talking about in the plugging fund, we've used all of
No,
those.
what's the contractor? Because I'm sure we had a conversation that you were trying to get somebody to come in and plug it. You had an amount that was budgeted. It might have been the 2.3, but I think it was actually less than that. You were just needing that amount of money to go into the fund to cover this as well as any other.
That's right. So originally we thought that was going to be a $400,000 job. And when they got down hole, there's a lot of, when you're plugging a well, you don't really know what you've got until you get down hole. And when they got down hole, it ended up being a major problem. And so it basically tripled in value.
So it was like $1 million, $2 million.
The cost ended up being $1.5 million.
Okay.
And I will say that, so that scenario is very unique. What happened, there was an operator who owned roughly about 31 wells, pretty much all in Rankin County, and they just closed up shop. So historically, what we do, we require bonds and letters of credit to secure plugging operations. Obviously, it's not going to cover a $1.5 million job, but a lot of what we're seeing on these plugging and remediation jobs that we're doing, some of those are jobs that if an operator goes under, we're collecting on his bonds and letter of credit, supplementing the difference. A lot of these jobs, though, are legacy jobs. They're a farmer may be out literally plowing a field and his disc trips up an old wellhead that nobody knew was there and had been there for decades. So we'll go out there, and a lot of that's just word of mouth. They talk to our inspectors. They let us know. We'll go out there and remediate those sites. We had a home builder that built a home right next to an old reserve pit that nobody knew was there. His patio started sinking. So we'd go out there, and that was in Jones County. And, those are the kind of projects we go out there and clean and remediate and fix for them.
Yeah, I think we asked this question. I've asked this question in the past, but you talk about how you find more and more of these wells each year. Are you still finding more wells than you're able to count, or that you're able to?
Yes, so we've been lucky since I guess the last 3 going on 4 years. We've had 3 grants with the Department of the Interior, all from the infrastructure bill, that are all specifically for plugging and remediating orphan well sites. A lot of the effort in the first grant that we got was purely plugging and remediation, all downhole work. The second grant that we got, a lot of the focus on that was hiring contractors and using our field inspectors to go out there and identify sites. And so what we did using our database is identified roughly about 1,000 sites. And then we hired the contractors, went out there and put eyes on these sites. Because a lot of the times what we have in a record, may be a project or a well that was drilled in 1950 that we have no information on. So what we did is our contractors went out there, put eyes on those sites, and they said, yes, this is a well that needs to be addressed, or no, there's nothing that needs to be done here. Check the box, take it off of our list. So we've done about 450 of those sites out of the 1,000. We're moving toward in this year to do the remaining ones. And out of those 450, I think we identified 35 well sites that need to be plugged.
All right, so you're asking for an additional $2 million to go in for match money for getting a remediation. Is that correct?
No, sir. So that $2 million will be money that we get from the matching grant from the feds. So I'm just asking for approval to spend that $2 million.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, all I'm asking for is 3.6, and then on the emergency plugging side, the 2.3.
Yeah. You're just looking for the authority to spend that money.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sharon.
Yeah, one question.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not sure, but like for oil fields like Denbury and other oil fields like that, do y'all have anyone that monitor those fields and those type?
Yes, sir. So most of Denbury's operations are in Tinsley Field in Yazoo County, and we've got
the biggest ones in Jasper County.
It is a big one. It is a big one. Let me rephrase that. Tinsley is one of their most productive ones as far as just from a dollar standpoint. That's their bell cow.
they sold it, but
Right.
yeah. But you know, I was asking the question, a lot of the locals, like the local jobbers, work over roads and stuff like that. I know that, Exxon now owns the Heidelberg field and some others except for Tinsley
That's right. Yes, sir.
that they saw. But my question is, do they have to get, do they have to send requests to you, or do y'all have any information as to how they choose those people that comes in and do like the work over work and those type of things in the field, or is that just something that's
No, sir, we don't have any authority over who they hire. And we do make a concerted effort to encourage them to hire Mississippi workers.
okay? Well, I'm glad you said that, because since Exxon came in, that we have lost probably about, I know 3 companies in Heidelberg that's closing up now because of Exxon, and they bring the Texas people to do the work. And we're talking about probably about 20 jobs. So I was just wondering, how did that work out?
Well, we are seeing that a similar issue when we put our bids out for bid, these IFBs out for bid. When I first started, we would have 8 to 10 contractors bid on these jobs. Now I think we just are in the process of awarding a package where we had 2. And so what that does for us is, I mean, I think with competition, that drives your prices down. So like I said, what used to be a $60,000 or $70,000 plug-in job turned into $105,000.
These people just didn't close up. They closed up because Exxon chose not to use them and bring in people contracted did the same work out of
Yes, sir.
Texas. I mean, prices same, the whole 9 yards. They just bring in other people from Texas to do the same work. So, and I was just notified this morning, we have 2 that will be closing by the end of the week or probably by the end of the month.
Yes, sir.
So there's some additional jobs, and these was all people that went out, companies that went out and spent extra money to get in compliance to what Exxon was willing them to do. And Exxon came in and inspected all that they did, says everything is compliance and all this, and then basically told them, we don't want to use you in a way to bring it in. So I was just wondering.
I wish I could influence it, but that's above me.
All right, thank you, anyway, Tim, and make sure you do something with Morris Welch too.
Yes, sir. I'll try. I will.
Question, Mr. Chairman. We need to get a second. Sorry. Go ahead. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with the decrease in oil and gas production, like you said, other than like revenue and where you're getting your money from, how does that affect your operations? Do you still have the same amount of work? I mean, does it affect your pins? I mean, you do need 35 pins, or is the work still available?
Yeah, so
How's that?
there's plenty of work over work in the state of Mississippi. There are other, for our agency administratively, especially with these grants, our production department, which keeps up with the production and sales, we stay plenty busy. We do not need other staff right now. That could change. There is an ongoing effort right now for projects related to carbon sequestration, carbon storage. We are in the process right now of going through the primacy process with the EPA to acquire primacy for regulatory authority over what's a Class 6 well, which is a CO2 storage well. If we get primacy, when we get primacy, the workload will substantially increase, and we may need to increase our staff at that time. When I took over the board, we had 2 people in our geology department. We now have 6 administrative and professionals. And so we're in a really good place. As far as the primary effect is on our revenue. We are a special fund agency. We pride ourselves on being a special fund agency. We're just, as the market goes, we go. We need a general fund appropriation this year. We'll probably need one next year. Then that 3rd year, we probably won't, depending on what the market does. So it's going to be kind of a roller coaster.
So it doesn't affect the workload. It affects the way your revenue, where your appropriation comes from ultimately then.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, yeah, I know. To be honest with you, I was a little bit confused when I looked at the request. Figured out. You have no special funds. Like you're going to collect 0 in special fund revenue this year.
We will collect, but what we're trying to do. So right now we average about 1.3 million in special fund maintenance fee collections. We're trying to build that special fund back up to where we don't need a general fund appropriation. So basically, if we had relief, general fund relief for a year, that would enable us to hopefully take, 1.3, end up at 2.6 next year, perhaps, depending on how our collections are.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, are you tracking this? In the past, they have not been a general fund agency. They are not a general fund agency. They're a special fund agency. That
They were one of, what, two?
Then we switched them back.
Yeah.
yeah. So,
But go ahead.
no, sir.
My understanding of what you said earlier is that you have a base level that you don't want to get below right now when your fund, your plugging fund.
That's right.
And what you're trying to do right now is get some general funds and also get the authority to use that $2 million that you can get in matching funds to use just to square everything up on the plugging, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the general will be used to take care of all the things we see in our, your salaries, but some of that's going to have to be used. Now that I'm looking at it, is the contractual, the 2782 that you got down, is that just all plugging or is there some other stuff in there
So
too?
that was plugging, and to be honest, that number, when we look at these budgets, that number's a little confusing to us because that 2.72 million of that, I believe, was our federal plugging grant from last year. So that was contractual work associated with the federal plugging grant. That wasn't outside money for us, or inside money, I guess I should say. I believe that does include the project manager and our contractors on the plugging and remediation side, which was $2 million last year.
Well, but last year you had almost 6.2 in contractual, which was primarily those 30 or so wells that you plugged, you said earlier.
I think a lot of that contractual was money through our plugging program.
Yeah, what else did you have besides the plugging
That's it.
in contractual? That's it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That would be super helpful if we could see things, especially on contractual services that are like an admin, contractual services versus work performed,
Field work.
actual field work. Would have that same authority or that same visibility on corrections. Yeah. So now I'm catching up with you. I'm seeing what you're asking for, and you're asking for the 3.6. I just wanted to point that out, Mr. Chairman, for the prior. That's not done it or seen it in the past. You understand why I was doing that. Your fund balance right now is at 1.6 or somewhere, and you still have authority this year to spend more of that money. That's what you're doing, and you're wanting to replenish that fund with the 3.6 or part of the 3.6 to make sure that you don't get down to a critical low to where you will not be able to respond to an emergency situation.
We have to separate our operational monies and our emergency plugging fund. And we are a special fund agency and we pride ourselves on being a special fund agency. We want to stay a special fund agency, but our revenues are it's tied to the market and it's not anything we can do. I really want to point out, if I may, part of the request for the emergency plugging fund monies is the Department of Interior grant is a matching grant. So we have to spend some state monies in order to qualify for the matching grant money from DOI. So that there's part of a reason there, for us to be able to have some plugging monies, some state monies, some skin in the game on the state side in order to qualify for the matching grant from DOI, which we will apply for in September.
What's that match requirement?
2 million.
Well, it's 50-50.
No, it's not quite. I think I want to say this year we put in
1-to-1.
I think we put in roughly about $500,000.
Okay. All right. Okay, Mr.
Chairman, since you brought that up, I think I did just notice that the 2 million I just saw was adding it up, but should that be in a state support special or should that be in a federal? Is it coming in from DOI?
That's federal. Yes, sir. That's coming from DOI.
That line needs to be bumped down. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it's not in the right spot on this worksheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew what it was, but then when you asked that last question, I said, wait a minute, that's not in the right spot. It needs to be bumped down the federal line.
Yeah, and if you look at 26 estimated, the contractual services at 6.1, I believe 5 million of that was the first grant that we got from DOI, which was a plugging grant also. So that our contractual.
Yeah, then we need, if that's the case, so you're being consistent. Now, other special, I don't know how we categorize, I would think DOI would be on the federal line, but it could be on a other special, but federal, well then.
It's just not shown on here as federal.
But it didn't last year. If that came from DOI too, that should be a slot on FY 26. But anyway, I think we all know where it's going. It just maybe didn't in the right spot.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Anything else? Anything else? So consider this hearing closed. Thank you very much, Jess. Appreciate you.
Thank you all very much.
Shoot you all. I'll shoot you. File the breakdown, the actual signing them versus bill. And this is pretty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry that we were running, and it's not unusual for these budget hearings to do that. But I would like to go ahead and get this subcommittee hearing started for PERS. If you would give us a brief overview, and then this is our last one of the day, but I know we're going to have some time, or that we're going to need some time for some questions. But Mr. Higgins, I'll be glad to turn it over to you. And thank you very much for coming and presenting it to us today.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and other members of the committee. It's great to be here and visit with you today on PERS and the budget, and appreciate the chance to be here. If we haven't had a chance to meet, or for maybe those online, if you don't know, I'm Ray Higgins, the Executive Director of PERS. And again, thank you for having us over. As I often say, PERS is a complex issue with a lot of moving parts. However, that's not really the case with the administrative budget. So unless you prefer later, I won't veer off too much in those other directions, or the other direction, other than to say thank you for the funding bill. It was really exciting to see a $1 billion funding bill from the Senate. The first week of session, I know we have at least a couple of the authors in here, so really wanted to say thank you for that. It's good to see such a serious step toward beginning to address the unfunded. So thank you again for that. The blue notebooks that were passed out provides a lot of information on PERS. It's really an update to some of our annual publications. You can also find most of it online. There are two sheets, or I guess three technically, that provide additional budget information. One is a summary we use for our board meetings. The other is I'll call it elbow budget submission form. I think it's an MBR form. Looks kind of like this. Is mainly the one I'll refer to there. Our administrative budget is a little over $21 million. Just as a reminder, we essentially fund ourselves from the trust, and any of the spending authorization that's put in there that we don't spend should remain in the trust. So just as background there, we typically have a flat or a baseline type budget approach in the request from year to year, sometimes slightly less than the year before. That's the case here as well. As you'll see on that spreadsheet, the MBR type form, actually a reduction in the request from the existing budget. And that's mainly backing out what we viewed as one-time special type funds for the implementation of Tier 5. Now, there has been some discussion between our staff and the budget office about maybe what I think is referred to a reappropriation of some of the state funds, not new money, but a reappropriation of what could be left, which we think may be a good idea in case there are some Tier 5 adjustments. But like I said, the request, again, baseline type going forward and actually a reduction. One thing that's embedded down within the numbers is an increase for some building and contractual related expenditures to our elevators. Unlike some state agencies, we own the facility. It's in the trust fund, and part of that. And so we're responsible for maintaining that. And we've been advised that our elevators are at or getting close to or beyond the useful life. So we want to make sure and have the authorization to do that. Most of our budget, and from an administrative standpoint, relatively small, pretty straightforward. The largest part is personal services, and we're under the state personnel board rules. The second largest area is usually contracts, as far as a line item in that regard, which covers everything from actuaries to the building maintenance. And we just really asked to be able to essentially maintain what we have from a funding level, from an administrative standpoint, and a position count. We only have a small handful of vacancies. Most of them are recent and certainly either pending or in the process, or we have plans for them. So again, we just ask support of our request, which is actually a reduction, and to be able to maintain what we have. And with that, appreciate the time, and we'll be happy to try to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to working with you. This is my first year of your budget. It's pretty straightforward and pretty clean from what I'm seeing, but I'm sure that there'll be questions of the administration. But at this time, I'll yield to my chairman. Any questions? Senator Sparks, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Higgins, do you know, I know it's a decrease in contractual, that you're not asking for the money that you did the Tier 5 startup. And by the way, I want to thank you and your team for working to do that on a pretty tight timeline. But what remains of the money? I believe you said there is some remaining of that Tier 5. How much was it last year that we appropriated, and how much remains?
Of the state funds, it was 200,000. And I want to say we have charged off around 39 or 40,000 or so far. There'll probably be more than that. Some of those are still in the process, but it was 200,000 from the state. And that's an estimate, I think, of where we stand. Balance is about 160 something.
163.
And I think I guess just for, you correct me if I'm wrong, but for the subcommittee's information, the chairman is this year you've been inundated with PERS bills that have hit the system, which you normally don't get year over year. And I'm assuming you go to Ice Miller and you go to Kavanaugh McDonald and they analyze these things, and all that comes at a cost.
That's right. Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. So you're asking for that to be reappropriated to deal with any Tier 5 continuing cost as far as contractual services?
Yes, to some extent, as long as that's agreeable. Now, in this request, it's not. We were just backing it out. But after some outreach from the budget office with our fiscal staff, there was some discussion about the reappropriation, which we think probably would be a good idea, if possible. And of course, it would be used for Tier 5 related implementation type things. And the part on the 200,000, Senator Sparks and I talked some last year. We have additional money I'll call it the regular PERS money. But what's key is was key and still is especially for the defined contribution hybrid side, was to make sure that the startup cost was with that different money.
And to be fair, that's not Tier 1 through 4 because they were not touched. You're fiduciary to them, and technically you'd have been spending money on people that are not members of the system till March 1st. I mean,
we would have been if we didn't have.
That's right. All right.
Yeah, that's right. That was one of the reasons for that. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Okay. I appreciate the hard work that y'all do, and I know that members appreciate the opportunity to call you and when we have issues with our constituents, and that's a very important function for us to be able to provide to our constituents. And I wanted to say thank you personally for those efforts. I know that I'm going to have some additional questions later on, but at this time, if there are no other questions, I will go ahead and consider this closed.
All right. Thank you. Well, you're most welcome, and thank you, and happy to help anytime.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Are you good? Are you good?